with another video. As always, leave a like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, and instead of leaving me your thoughts on any future fan fictions you want me to review, I want everyone who watches this video leave your thoughts on the video, as well as your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card, your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh archetype, and why they're your favorites. Why? Because look at my screen. So yeah, we're gonna talk about these lovely ladies. Now the reason before I start, I want to talk about what's gonna be happening in this video. So I've been a fan of the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game for years. I actually bought, when the card game was first released in America, I actually, immediately went to the store, bought the Kaiba starting pack, and eventually I bought the Yu-Gi one, and I had lots of fun just basically dueling myself, trying to see which, when I had the first one, I actually split the deck in half, so each deck get like 25 cards. And then I just used those 25 cards, and I actually dueled myself to see, all right, who's gonna win, me, or this deck, or this deck. And stuff. I had a lot of fun. I didn't have anyone to play Yu-Gi-Oh with back then. I guess when I was a kid at the time, there wasn't really any people my age in my neighborhood. Mostly because they all moved away. That's pretty much it. But I never really found an archetype that I really loved. I found a couple, maybe archetypes. And then I saw these lovely ladies, the Melodious archetype. So this video is going to be me talking basically about this archetype, why I love it. It's kind of the ins and outs of it. And, why I think it should get more support. Maybe a Link monster. I don't know. Maybe something. More spell traps. Monsters. I don't know. Who knows? Now, the reason for this video is a YouTuber named DP Yu-Gi-Oh! He does a lot of kind of hilarious meme archetypes, and in the comment section of his videos, it's become common for people to say day X with no Y support. And some guy who's a big fan of volcanics, actually, and his profile picture is actually a Captain Magma from SpongeBob. When Squidward wore that volcano hat, and he's like, I like this card, and he says day 45 of no volcanic support, and I decided to join in day 45 of no Melodious support, because Melodious are my favorite archetype. None of the cards are my favorite card. That's actually another fairy type. I'm actually a really big fan of the fairy typing. And I think they need more love. We need a meta fairy deck. And don't even dare say Trick Stars. I don't even give a damn about Trick Stars. They ain't a meta deck. They ain't a meta deck. And I don't even count that as a fairy deck, because they mostly, you know what? No. I'm not going down that road, because that's just talking about Trick Stars is a bad thing. But then again, I don't really count them as a meta fairy deck, because they were used as burn. It was a burn. They were used as an engine for burn decks. They just call them Trick Stars because we don't want to call them burn decks. Yeah. But I really love, and so one guy talked about how, Melodious, they were almost there to being a good archetype, but they didn't get a lot of good support in terms of spells and traps. They only got 4. They only got 3 spells, 1 trap. And then immediately at the same time, the Luna Lights were released at the same time, and everyone flocked to the Luna Lights, mainly because they were a more offensive base deck, plus another Yu-Gi tuber, Mega Capital G, constantly immediately loving the archetype, and so people just cared more about the Luna Lights and their offensive deck than the Melodious and their defensive deck. So yeah, they're fairies. They're all light. They're all light monsters. So we're not gonna get into that. Let's start with the two key cards. Let's talk about this. Oh, come on! They have to load again? Oh, please don't tell me I have to load again. No! No! My thing, oh, come on. I'll see if getting rid of that screen actually gets, alright. No, 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 why is it glitching? What? Alright, oh, come on. So let's talk about the Melodious archetype. Sorry, this is, I apologize, this is the first time, doing this kind of video, so bear with me. So the archetype is a more defensive, controlled-based archetype, based around a lock. The lock revolves around two cards. One, Aria, and the second one being LG. I think that for now, let me just exit out so I have, so I could probably load faster. LG and Aria, yeah, here we go. They are both light fairy monsters. Aria is a level 4. LG is a level 5. Aria's effect reads, when the special summon card is on the field, Melodious monsters you control cannot be targeted by card effects or be destroyed by battle. And LG's effect reads, special summon Melodious monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. If this card was special summoned, all fairy type monsters you control gain 300. Now, excuse me. In order to get the most out of this lock, you have to special summon both Aria and LG. And here's kind of the first problem with the deck. I know I love the Melodious archetype. I actually love fairy monsters as a whole. My favorite monster is actually another fairy monster, Prediction Princess Tarati. I'll probably leave a comment explaining why Tarati is my favorite fairy monster of all time. But that's not going to be a video. That's either a comment or another video just talking about that card in general. LG is level 5, meaning it's not exactly that easy to special summon her. There are multiple ways to special summon Aria, Photon Change, you can use Solo's effect. Here's Solo. Here's another big card of the deck. Solo, the Melodious Songstress. Excuse me. Here we go. If your opponent controls a monster, you control no monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Melodious monster from your deck, except Solo the Melodious Songstress. So you can use Solo to special summon Aria and LG, although it's really recommended that if Aria is on the field first and she's special summoned, don't special summon try not to special summon Solo. Or if you have two Solos, special summon one, then normal summon the other one, crash them into other monsters, then use their effects, get the lock started. The whole deck revolves around the smaller monsters, getting these two out, Aria and LG, and then also other monsters kind of buffing them up because LG has two effects, saying that if she's special summoned, all fairy type monsters gain 300 attack. So her attack becomes 2300, Aria's becomes 1900, so on and so forth. And there's other also smaller monsters to bump up their attack. Let me see where is no, not Opera. I think it was Soprano. That does no. No, not Canon. No, not. Oh, I think it's Serenade. No, no, it's Sonata. It's Sonata. And that leads to Sonata's effect. Okay, so yeah, Sonata's effect is, if you control a Melodious monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. While the special summon card is on the field, all fairy-type monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense. So basically, you get Arya and LG on the field. Arya bumps up everyone's attack by 300, and then you get like about 2 or 3. If you can get at least 2 Sonatas on the field special summoned, they get at least anywhere from 300 to 1800 attack and 1500 defense. So you can literally make an army of super protected beat sticks. Like every single monster, I think take Sonata. If you have like the 1800, her attack is 3000 immediately. She won't end you the game, but she'll run over anything, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it unless you get like non-targeting removal, or you just straight up kaiju it. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. We have Arya, we have LG. Yeah, like I said, my only problem with the Slock is getting LG on the field normally because special summon Melodious monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. You have to actually special summon her to actually have her protect herself, because that's a big problem, because a lot of the ways to special summon fairy type monsters, they have to be level 4 or lower, which slightly hinders her. It's not if you get a dedicated Melodious deck build and you get lucky, you can easily special summon her, but most of the time you're going to be special summoning Arya way before you get LG on the field. So we have Arya, we have LG, we have Sonata, we have Solo. Who's next? Okay, we have Cannon. Yeah, we have Cannon. Let me get rid of these. Yeah, so let's keep things moving. We have next card is Cannon, the Melodious Diva. She has 1400 attack, 2000 defense. If you control a Melodious monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Cannon, the Melodious Diva, once per turn. This way, once per turn, you can target one Melodious monster you control, change its battle position. So Cannon's kind of more of a wall than anything. You can use her to put something into emergency into defense, like you don't really want to take the damage. But she's kind of the weaker Melodious. You still have to run her. You have to actually run a lot to get the most mileage out of the Melodious deck. You have to run at least one of every card, except for I think 1 or 2. And the only ones you have to run at any more than 1 are Arya, LG, and Solo. And maybe Sonata, depends on the build you're trying to go for. Cannon, I would suggest really only running 1 of her, because she's just there to swarm the field, to try and get field pressure, to build up that whole control gimmick and defensive idea to counter the Lunalights. So yeah, just run 1 of her. Now, she's not a bad card by any means, but there are other Melodious cards. Next we have this little joke. Crystal Rose. Its effect is, once per turn, you can send 1 Gem Knight or Melodious monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. And if you do, this card's name becomes the sent monster's name until the end phase. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 1 fusion monster from your graveyard, special summon this card in defense position. You can only use this effect once per turn. Do not use this card in Melodious. This thing actually benefits Gem Knights more, because Gem Knights a more fusion-oriented deck. Melodious only really have 3 fusion monsters. And not to mention, the deck doesn't really dedicate itself that much to fusion, oddly enough. Despite having a couple ways to fusion summon, it's not really that good in Melodious, because most of the time you're not really going to be able to summon the fusion monsters that easily. Not to mention you can't even recover it because with Ritual Sanctuary, since they're all fairies, it'd be better off if you run like a tech copy of Ritual Sanctuary, have like a bunch of spells to protect the Melodious, and then when you need them back, use Ritual Sanctuary. You use not the first effect, the ritual effect. You get the second effect. You send back a bunch of spells and bring back one of your Melodious fusions. I think that's actually be a better use of Ritual Sanctuary in that deck. Also, you kind of need Sanctuary in the Sky. I think that yeah, you need some way to have Sanctuary in the Sky. I think Ritual Sanctuary is a better spell for this archetype simply because you need ways to keep the cards on the field, and so like a simple battle protection card is not really gonna work. So yeah, ignore this card. If I was talking about Gem Knights, add this card. This thing is invaluable to Gem Knights. When Gem Knights were at their full power, this card was a valuable side option just in case card. Like if you didn't have any way to emergency summon a fusion monster, you summon this thing, you activate its effect, you send any Gem Knight to the graveyard, bam, you got a fusion right there. Next card. We have Opera. She is another level 4. She has 2300 attack and 1000 defense. And she can attack the turn she is normal summoned or flip face up. That's justified. Granted, if you special summon her, you got a level 4 2300 beat stick. There you go. So, using her with solo, that's actually a valuable option just in case. And if this card was sent to the graveyard as a fusion summon for a fusion summon, fusion material for a fusion summon, you can activate this effect. For the rest of this turn, Melodious monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So she's a more just-in-case card. She's there for the attack, but you can use her for the effect if you have like a bunch of Melodious and you don't have the lock set up. You can use Opera as a makeshift, temporary, one-turn only lock, just so you can try and protect your cards as much as you can, just in case your opponent might have something. I really only run one copy in my decks. What was another? My deck was more focused on beefing up the lock as much as possible, getting like a bunch of B6. I also had, I believe, side options. I actually had a couple Freyas, the cheerleading angel. That's about it. Let's see, what's the next one? We have Score. I love this card. I actually really love this card because I think this is such a troll card. And honestly, this is another card you need to have 3 of. So there's 4 cards you need to have more than one of. Solo, Aria, LG, and Score. Score is more of a me thing because I actually really love this card because I had so much fun with this card. I've taken down so many monsters with Score. So she's a level 2. She has 200 attack and 200 defense, and her effect is during damage calculations in either player's turn, if a Melodious monster you control battles an opponent's monster, you can send this card to your hand to the graveyard. The monster's attack and defense become 0 until the end of the turn. If you use this with Honest, and you actually have the situation set up right, you can actually use this as an OTK. Yeah, think about that. I literally almost OTK'd someone. He had a Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon on the field. I had, what was the card? I had, not Shiberta. Where is she? Where is, right, no, crud, I just realized. It didn't give me the, I just realized I didn't get the 2 big, it was one of the bigger one of the 2 main deck, where is she? Come on, no, there we go. I had Mozarta on the field. And I just realized I did, there you go. I just had to get these two on the field. I actually have this card, Mozarta, the Melodious Maestra, on the field. She was the only card on the field, and he had a Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon. And so he attacked me. He was like, oh, he's protected. I said, I'm gonna use Score. And it's like, well, it's not gonna affect my Max Dragon because he's unaffected. It's like, it doesn't target. And then it quickly goes down, and then I chained Honest. So we have a monster that is 2,600, gets 4,000 attack points, so it becomes 6,600. And then the Max Dragon's attack goes down to 0. 6,600 attack life points gone. Think about if I had a way to bump up her attack points in any way, then I would have actually OTK'd him. I did beat him with Matsura because once he got Max Dragon on the field, he didn't really have any plays left because he spent his entire hand just getting that Max Dragon on the field. And so he was literally stuck top decking, so all I really needed to do was draw a single monster, which I did, which was Cannon, summon her, run over the face down monster with Shiberto, and attack Cannon for game. So I did beat the guy. But basically, Score is basically an anti-honest. Another fun thing I always did with Score is, remember like when Adult Swim had that TV cartoon, Aqua Teen Hunger Force? And a lot of the earlier episodes actually had a little skit at the beginning where this guy named Dr. Weird, and he always had the da 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 da, and then he goes, "Gentlemen, behold!" And so I actually always did that whenever I was about to use Honest. I always typed down, Dr. Weird music plays, "Gentlemen, behold, the anti-honest," and then I play Score, and then my little fairies would run over literally everything. The sheer amount of cards, mostly Blue Eyes Max Dragons, and even I even took down Masterpiece, and that card's banned. He's banned. He's gone. I took down a bunch of Masterpiece with this card, and they're like raging. But honestly, my favorite one when I used this card to take down a mother effing Crystal Wing. Yes, I used this card to take down a Crystal Wing. I kid you not. He thought he had a Crystal Wing. He's like, I'm safe. And so he attacks my solo because it was all I had except for 2 scores. I had 2 of these cards in my hand. So I was like, alright. So I sent one. He negates it. So, oh, you thought that was a bam! It's like, you lucky bastard! And I was like, yeah, I count myself lucky with that one. And I took down a Crystal Wing with this little girl right here. It took 2 of them, but I got him. So yeah, having 3, I think really maximizes your chances because this is another defensive card. Again, the Melodious Arc playstyle is a very control defense heavy style. And so that's Score. She's actually like one of my favorite cards. Now we have the 2 big ones. Since I had to pull these up, Matsara and Chopina. I pretty much butchered those 2. This one's a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2,600 attack, 2,000 defense, and her effect is, once per turn, you can special summon 1 light fairy monster from your hand. You cannot special summon other monsters the turn you activate this effect, except for light monsters. So you pretty much have to use this in a light-only deck, which is basically all the Melodious monsters. So if you get her, you can easily, like, get the field set up. Most of the time, I actually tried to get her on the field first, so I can get LG on the field, because most of the time I would always have Arya on the field, but I would never have LG on the field. If I had Arya and Arya and LG in the hand, I would always summon Arya first because most destruction cards always target, so I always have that protection just in case, and I always had some way to keep one of them alive, like a Melodious illusion or something like that. So she's very key. I would really only have one in her deck because she is very bricky. She tends to brick. You're more likely to get her on the field using solo than anything else. But she is very valuable to the deck. Same thing with Shapina. She's a level 7 monster, 2300 attack, 1700 defense. Once per turn, you can target one light fairy monster in your graveyard. Add it to your hand. You cannot activate non-light monsters' effects during the turn you activate this effect. So, just like Mozzara's effect, you gotta have only light monsters on the field. And most of the time when I used her effects, I mainly used her to really recycle score and honest so I can keep those in my hand at all times, just as a really, really scary just in case. I only used her for recycling those two cards or solo if need be. And I bet you're wondering, why haven't we seen any fusion monsters? Mainly because despite being a fusion-oriented deck, they don't really have a lot of, they're like half the deck's more committed to protection rather than fusion summoning. The next couple cards, they're going to be more focused on fusion summoning. First off, we have Serenade. She is level 4, 400 attack, 1900 defense, and this card can be treated as two tributes for the tribute summon of a fairy type monster. If you can special summon her, like with probably Valhalla, but then again, you're probably going to use Valhalla to summon the big one, or Photon Change, or Nova Summoner, or Angel, whatever, Angel Guard, something like that. I can't remember his name. Get her on the field. You can use her the next turn to summon the big one, Marcel or Shapina. After this card is special summoned to your side of the field, you can normal summon one Melodious monster during your main phase this turn, in addition to the normal summon / set. This is actually kind of a niche card. It's very niche. It's useful in the right circumstances, but the fact is you gotta special summon her to get that extra normal summon. It's not really a good idea. It's very niche. I more or less just used her as the tribute fodder. If I had any easy way to get her on the field, maybe if I could special summon her, there's a quick play where you play it and you can special summon a level 4 or lower. I mainly use that to get her on the field, so that way I can quickly build up field presence. Again, a lot of this deck is more based around the smaller monsters trying to swarm the field to protect each other, and the bigger monsters are just there for recycling. But she's an okay card. Very niche card, but for what she does, it's not bad. I really only ran one. And then we have Soprano, the Melodious Songstress. Level 4, attack and defense, both 1400. Her effect is, when this card is special summoned, you can target one Melodious monster in your graveyard, except Soprano, added to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. Once per turn, you can fusion summon one Melodious fusion monster from your extra deck, using monsters you control as fusion materials, including this card. So she's basically a polymerization on legs. I don't like that first effect. I mostly use her for the second effect, because I don't like the fact that you have to special. I'm okay with special summoning her. Okay, fine. You get you use her. You summon her with solo. Use her effect. You get the solo back to your hand. You get some neat recovery. That's fine. But I'm more worried about the fact it adds it to your hand. The bigger monsters, fine. I can get that. The big monsters are basically recycling engines by themselves to recycle the cards and then recycle the luck. That's fine, but having a low-level monster that doesn't swarm the field and only really uses it, and people really only use her to get the fusion monsters on the field if need be. Again, just like Shiberta, she's a very niche card, only run one of her. And now we come to, in my opinion, the absolute worst Melodious card. Tantam. She has 1,000 attack, 1,000 defense, and her effect is, if this card is special summoned while you control a Melodious monster, you can add 1 polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a fusion material for fusion summon, you can target 1 Melodious monster you control. It loses 500 attack, and if it does, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Why is there just random burn damage in this card? The Melodious in the anime were more slight burn cards. They had at least another burn card in them, but that's anime only. And this doesn't really fit the playstyle. Granted, if you use Soprano, and if Soprano's effect reads, you get a Melodious monster from your graveyard and you can special summon it, fine, then you can use her, so you can use Soprano's effect, fuse it, and you have an extra polymerization in your hand as a just in case. So if Soprano's effect was different, I would see running Tantam, but the fact is, it only counts polymerization. Despite the fusion stuff not being very well known, they do have a lot of good cards to special summon fusion monsters better than Tantam. They have like 4, I believe. Serenade also has an effect that deals with fusion summon, I think. You have Serenade, the last card. You have Fortissimo. You have Ostiano, which are all better options than running Tantam. This is the only card I actually didn't run at any point in time with Melodious, because I just think she was just unneeded. If her effect was different, like if she was summoned, then you fetch a polymerization, like normal or special summon, you get a polymerization. She would actually be pretty busted. But then she would actually be used in more decks, but she probably still have that Melodious clause in her. So I just didn't like this card. Not to mention, there's actually not really a reason to run shocking, I know. There's no reason to run polymerization in a Melodious deck. You're more likely to run Fusion Tag than polymerization. But I just do not like polymerization does not really work in this deck at all. I tried using polymerization. I tried finding a way to use Tantam. I could not. I just simply could not. Unless I get really, really lucky, but even then, that's just beyond hopeful. Just don't use her. Just honestly don't use her. Then, next we have, I already read this card. Okay, next up, we have for the spell cards. I saved the fusion deck monsters for last. Let me just move Shibuya. Next up, first off, this is a better card for fusioning for Melodious than Tantam. It's called Fortissimo. Once per turn, you can target 1 Melodious monster you control. It gains 800 attack until your next standby phase, even if this card leaves the field. You can send this card to the graveyard, fusion summon 1 Melodious fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control as fusion materials. Granted, they have to be on the field, but the fact is you can actually power up a Melodious and you can keep it on the field at all times. It kind of makes it a better card because you get at least slightly more mileage out of her. It fits the whole gimmick, being more protective by buffing up their attack, so it makes them harder to run over. You know, I wish it kind of gave them more better protection. I think there's actually one more. What's this? There is one extra card. I'm actually looking up the app real quick. This is just simply a better card to use in this deck because it powers them up. It gives them slight more protections in more battle-oriented decks. So it encourages your opponent to have to run it over, not to use effects, and then you use the other cards to protect them with effects like opera and stuff like that. Meaning they run out of options to use it. So I kind of like this deck. It also acts as like an emergency polymerization. You activate this card and you send it to the graveyard. You get that effect. You can also kind of use it as bait card if so need be. You like if you have something, if you have a big combo you're trying to play, you can use this. Power up one Melodious to run it over, and then hope your opponent actually activates something in response to get rid of it, so you can make your play. So this is actually a good catch-all card. I would run one or two depending on preference. Next up, we have Melodious Illusion. This is the only trap card. Well, I'm just checking something. No, quick play. Yep. Where is that card? Where? Oh, okay. Finally, we have. I know it's not technically part of the Melodious, but it technically was used as it. Pianissimo. You're not gonna see it here. I actually have it on my phone pulled up. Target one face-up monster you control. This turn, that attack face-up monster's original attack becomes 100. Also, that face-up monster cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. See, this one also helps the play style. It's more defensive. It's meant to protect your monster so you can get that lock in. And so basically, it's supposed to protect a key monster that might risk being destroyed. You'll probably get a lot of damage unless you have Sanctuary on the Sky on the field. But it allows your monster like a key piece of one of the locks. Like if you don't have the lock complete and your monster and one of your key pieces is about to be destroyed, play this. They become completely protected. Yeah, sayonara. You're not gonna be having any problems, at least for a turn, or if they bounce it like Melodious. But anyway, back to the screen, we have Melodious Illusion. Target one Melodious monster you control. This turn, the face-up monster you control is unaffected by your opponent's spell/trap effects, and it can make a second attack during each battle phase. Now, here's the problem with this card, and it has to do with the lock. If you actually read carefully, let's see, yeah, here we go. Melodious monster you control cannot be targeted by card effects, meaning if you have the lock in, this card won't work. It won't work on any of your monsters. So just like Pianissimo, this card's more useful to try and protect the lock route, or obviously more protect LG because if you use it on Arya and she's special summoned, it ain't gonna work on her. But if you use it on any other monster, like monsters that you need to try and get the lock set up, like Shipperda or Safina, to try and get the lock back in as fast as possible. This is a neat little tech card. Nothing really bad, but there are better options. But it does support the playstyle. So let me save that card for last, because this is probably the best card. Next up, we have First Movement Solo. It reads, if you control no monsters, special summon one level 4 or lower Melodious monster from your hand or deck. You can only activate First Movement Solo per turn. You cannot special summon monsters during the turn you activate this card, except Melodious monsters. The only problem I have with this card is the fact LG's a level 5. I think the reason why they made her level 5 was because of this card. The special summon restrict, fine if only Melodious monsters can be summoned. But I think with LG being level 5, this kind of hampers the effectiveness of this card. The fact you have to control no monsters, and you can only special summon one level 4 or lower. If you have like something like Valhalla, you can special summon any level fairy type monster from your hand to the field, so you can get an instant Mazurda or Shapina if you need be. That's fine. I think it's a fine card. I think this is probably the second best card support in their playstyle. This is a good card. It's a good searcher. You can get an immediate Shapina. Not a Shapina. You could probably get something like, if you special summon like Serenade, you can easily get a Shapina or a Shipperda. not Shaperda, Marcella on the field immediately. So, you know, it does have a lot of useless. I just really wish the card would actually help in the playstyle to get that lock on the field. And it does. I just really wish it could get LG as well instead of just Aria. Because more than likely you're probably going to get either Serenade, Tantam if you're so useful. This is probably the only use for Tantam. Either Aria, Solo, Serenade, or Tantam. Or if you're lucky, maybe God dang it. Where is Soprano? And maybe Soprano, if you're lucky. And so we have actually a card that I actually want to come into the game. This is actually currently only in the anime. But I really wanted to talk about this card because I really wish they should have actually made this card a real thing. It's called Melodious Rhythm Change. Target one Melodious monster on the field, return it to the hand, and if you do, special summon one Melodious monster from your hand. This can actually be really good because if you use first movement solo, summon Serenade, then summon Mercerda, use her effect, summon Aria, you get that protection. You have LG in the hand, then you summon another monster. Use this card, switch out Serenade maybe, or maybe something else. You use her effect to get that lock. So this actually helped Melodious a lot. I just really wish. Just makes me wonder why they didn't post this card. There were two other anime exclusive cards, but they were more focused on burn damage than anything else. So I have nothing to say about those. I just really want this card in the game. That's what I want. I really, really want this card made. And finally, we get to the big one. Probably one of the best archetypal fusions ever. Ostianto. If you control no monsters, fusion summon one Melodious fusion monster from your extra deck, using two monsters from your hand and or deck as fusion material. During the end phase of this turn, destroy the fusion summon the monster fusion summoned by this effect. And if you do, if all the fusion materials that were used for its fusion summon are in the graveyard, you can special summon them. You can special summon all of them. So if you have no monsters, you can instantly use this card, summon Shiberto right there. With Aria and LG, wait until the end phase, bring back, you got your lock set up. Or summon Bloom Demo or Bloom Prina, you want to do some damage, fine, summon Bloom Prina. You want that big boss monster to protect you all the time, get Diva on the field, or use Shiberta, use Opera to protect yourself and run over something. Fine. This is a very, very good card. But it's a very, very last chance card. I really only use this card in very, very good emergencies. Like, if I had no choice but to use it, I used it. And usually when I did, I usually either kicked some ass or it got negated and I had nothing else and I lost. But this is a very, very good card. Unlike a lot of archetypal fusion monsters, it doesn't stop you from summoning other monsters. So, like, you can still make your plays and keep them on the field. Like, if you summon Shiberto using Aria and LG, you summon a bunch of Sonatas. You have, like, 3 Sonatas in your hand. You get them on the field. And then, bam, then they're gone. And the turn, they're gone. Aria and LG on the field. You got your lock. You got a bunch of superpowered fairies on the goddamn field. And, yeah, your opponent has to try and work around that. So this is probably the best support card they have. Next one, again, first move solo is probably as good. And I really, really love this card. I also like Rift. And of course, Bloom Diva is right in the middle of it. Telling you, this is who you should summon, so that way you don't have to worry about the other effect, the Destroy clause. So now we have the fusion monsters. These are basically the boss monsters. These are basically the win conditions for this. Let me check. Alright. First off, we have Shibuda, the Melodious Maestra. She requires 2 or more Melodious monsters. During each player's turn, you can target up to 3 cards in any graveyard, banish them. And if you do, this card gains 200 attack for each. This effect can only be used once while this card is faced up on the field. I don't get what her effect is. I don't get her effect. I guess she's basically more disruption than anything. Again, going for that defensive style, so she's basically a 2400 wall. That during your opponent's turn, if your opponent has to place uses something in the graveyard, you can use her effect. You banish stuff that they need, so you can disrupt them, so their plays are interrupted, so they can't do as much. It's fine. Not to mention, you can probably special summon her. If you find a way to summon her, you can use that effect again and again. It's not a hard once per turn. It's just while this card is faced up on the field. So if you get her off the field, get her back on the field, you can use her effect again. So it's a very simple disruption spell. Not to mention, she becomes a 246. She can become a 3K wall if need be. So it's a very easy way to get a 3000 attack point monster. She's usually the one to summon through Asianto. And usually most of the time it's Arya and LG that's the ones being that are used as materials, so you can get that lockup. Next up, we have Bloom Prima. I'm going to save Diva for last because she's the biggie. Bloom Prima, the Melodious Choir. She is a level 7 monster, 1900 attack, 2000 defense. She requires 1 Melodious Maestro, so you gotta use either Shapina, Morsada, or Shibuda as one of the materials, hence why you really need Fusion Tag rather than Polymerization, because that's more helpful than Polymerization. Plus 1 or more Melodious monsters. This card gains 300 attack for each fusion material used for its fusion summon. This card can make a second attack during each battle phase. If this fusion summon card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Melodious monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So you use her. If you use her in Oceano, when the field is done, you can. And she's sent to the graveyard, and you get LG and Arya back. Use her effect, you get one of the cards you use any emergency Melodious monster you use to summon on the field as well, back in your hand as well. If you have a score, you can get that. Overall, she's probably the weakest of the 3, mainly because she's more big beat stick than anything. She doesn't have any way to protect outside of the lock. At least with Shibuda, she's a big beat stick as well, but she has the ability to disrupt the opponent's plays. Then, granted, it's a weird way to do it, but she can actually disrupt the plays. And, but she's not a bad card. I would only have 1 of her, but she's probably the weakest of the 3 fusions. And finally, we have the big one. Bloom Diva, the Melodious Choir. She's a level 6 monster, 1000 attack, 2000 defense. And just like Bloom Prima, she requires a Melodious Maestra and a Melodious monster. Cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Also, you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. If this card battles a special summon monster, after damage calculation, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the difference between the original attack of that opponent's monster and this card. And if you do, destroy that opponent's monster. This is Melodious's win condition. If you get Bloom Diva on the field, even with the lock, and on top of the lock, which means you got to get rid of both. You got to get rid of the lock that protects all the monsters, and you got to spend resources to try and get rid of Diva. Basically, and she's basically a kind of sort of weaker version of El Shadal Construct. But I actually feel her more useful, mainly because of the fact that you still inflict battle damage, while Construct, she just destroys a special summon monster from the. I think with Construct, it's I actually believe with Construct it's only monsters from. It's just the start. It doesn't. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So this card is like Construct. She's harder to get out than Construct is. Construct is ridiculously easy to get out if you're running a dedicated Shadow deck. But if you get her on the field, you pretty much have the same effect, but you actually give the opponent damage, unlike Construct, where it just destroys the monster automatically. And I believe Construct, yeah. Yeah, that's basically it. So, you take no battle damage, your opponent gets all the battle damage, and the monster is destroyed in general if it's special summoned. So that way, you actually power this thing up with Sonatas, so that way you can run over stuff as possible for, like, anything that's over it that's normal summon. You use Diva to run it over, and anything stronger than it, more than likely that's special summoned, you take them out. Anything over weaker and stronger, especially if you have the lock, because then if you have Diva and the lock on the field, your opponent has to dedicate so many resources just to disrupt that. Then you're probably gonna win the duel anyway, because they spent so many resources getting these 3 cards off the field that you're pretty much gonna win, because they're gonna burn their deck out. Hence why Melodious are more defensive deck. Now, all throughout this video, I only talked about how the deck works. I never really explained why I fell in love with the deck in the first place. The reason I fell in love with the deck in the first place is I'm more of a defensive player. Any deck I make is more of a defensive deck. And so having a deck that really caters to me as like how I work in the context of either playing card games or playing a game. If I play like a shooter, I'm really not going to be a very aggressive person. I'm more going to be support or defense. So, finally having a deck that's pretty much dedicated on playing on defense and trying to stop your opponent from doing anything, especially since a lot of fairy decks actually do that, except for Trickstars, because more people only care about the burn damage than they do. So I really do I also like the art. I think Melodious have one of the best arts of any archetype ever. So I really, really love the art style. I love the gimmick. I love the play style. And most of all, I just really like fairies in general. I'm not like a lot of fans who more gravitate towards the dragons or the zombies or the warriors, because most of the time all the meta decks are those types. You're rarely gonna find archetype or meta decks that are fairy. I think, again, not counting Trickstars, because they were more used as a burn engine rather than an actual archetype in a deck. Pyros, I believe they were never really meta. Reptiles, never meta. Rock, never meta. All the big meta decks were always machines, dragons, warriors, fiends, and sometimes zombies. Like when you like talk about any kind of news support for zombies in general, everyone always thinks, does it go well with Psyframe Lord Omega? Does it work with him? Because Omega is just so that dang good. I really want one time a pure fairy deck to be meta, and again, not counting Trickstars, not counting that ridiculous burn engine that all the meta Trickstar decks use, because I don't really count that as a Trickstar deck, I count that as a burn deck. Ta-da! And I really, really just look at them. Look look at Arya and LG. No, wait, that's Sonata. Arya and Sonata just holding hands, like yay, and Masada's just playing her music. I really no, is that wait? I don't think that's wait. Is that Arya or is that Sonata or LG? I believe that. I hope that's not LG. It is LG. Oops. No wait. Where's the Sonata? All right. Sonata. No, it's Sonata. It's Sonata. I really, really love this deck. Not to mention the sheer fun factor of constantly just duping people with score never got old. And especially if I got score and honest in my hand at the same time. I actually convinced my friend to have a friendly duel. A future video will be me and him actually dueling, and I'll be bringing my fairies. I'll be bringing my Melodious cards. I'm probably gonna record it because it's gonna be on Dueling Book. But I really, really loved Melodious. I still love them. I really wish that I would be ecstatic. If I promise you at the end of this video, if we get new Melodious support, I swear to God, I will make a Melodious deck and go to a locals, and I will make a video telling about my time at a locals. Because I just love this deck. I really, really love this deck. I love everything about it. Even the weaker cards, even Tan Tam, as much as I think I don't use her, I still think she's still a decent enough card if used right. I just think, why is there burn damage? But overall, Melodious to me were just so much fun to use, and they're still very fun deck to use. And now that we have some link support for them that can summon, that can help them on the field, maybe I might do a locals anyway with a Melodious deck just to see what happens. I don't know. But I talked enough. It's almost an hour. I talked almost an hour about these cards. I just really love these ladies, these lovely ladies. This has been Dark Symphony 777. I thank you for allowing me to talk about these lovely ladies. You'll probably be seeing these three more often. I love these cards so much that I'm probably gonna leave these as my permanent background. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.